So good morning. Actually, this topic has been suggested also. Depression is never a very good thing to speak about, but yeah, it's happening not only today, for last maybe a few decades. As the pace of life has picked up, some people seem to be falling out of the stream, and they don't know where to go. They have a choice either to keep pacing up their speed, or else they begin to fall out and find ways and means, tracks, lanes, bylanes, and this and a variety of other reasons. Depression is one of the commonest problems. Just to give an indication, in from a medical point of view, it has been known that almost 40% of illnesses, they have a presentation in various ways, but there is an undercurrent of depression. Sometimes they present in through purely physical symptoms, and doctors keep treating the physical symptoms where there is an undercurrent of depression. Even we can take the current crisis of the virus. So now people are beginning to think about immunity, but immune system is so much responsive to our inner state that there are a number of studies which show us that depression depresses the immune system, whereas a state which is cheerful and healthy, it actually upgrades the immune system. Mother spoke about it when she said that, if you are in a state of cheerfulness, if you are in a state of balance, equanimity, then you are as if surrounded by a Suraksha Chakra. There is an envelope which surrounds you and nothing can penetrate, nothing can touch. So, depression has very far reaching dimensions. It's not just about feeling depressed and crying. It has many aspects and levels to it, and we'll just touch upon some of the aspects. Maybe then invite some questions. So the first thing that I wish to share is that this idea that we used to look at life only from a unitary point of view, in the sense on a single level. We should come out of that. It's still a kind of mindset which, for example, when I see this constant tendency, there is a virus, there is a virus, there is a virus. Now, virus is a physical entity. But are there forces and things behind the virus? Now, we look at the world purely from a material point of view, but there are aspects of creations of which at this point we have no clue. But those who explore the subjective spaces and other worlds, as it is called in spiritual parlance, they become aware that behind the material is only a vehicle. It's like, when there is an accident, so somebody says that the car dashed into a person. This is one way of saying. But is it the car or is it the driver? Or is it that, the brake failed? Is it that the mechanism failed? So, physical is only one dimension. There are many dimensions of our existence over which we have to understand life, understand creation, understand illnesses, health, relationships, the way we deal with the world and world itself. So, focusing on to depression, now there is no doubt a physical element to depression. And in physical itself, there are two aspects to it. One is something which we are born with. We are born with a certain kind of heredity makeup, and it has its own role to play, because everything upon earth takes a material basis. So it's important, like, if the computer system is the hardware is not good, it may not support a advanced software. So if the physical basis from birth itself, there is a heredity issue. So very often when people talk about only spirituality, they ignore that there is a physical dimension to things. So there is an element of heredity which determines some of our constitution, outer constitution, and there is also an element of early upbringing and environment. The way we are brought up. Say a child who has been brought up with this idea that you are a failure, you are useless, you are no good. it's like a mantra. We don't realize we talk about mantra, but of course, mantra is a very positive thing. But this is the positive mantra where we say that everything is wonderful, everything is good, it's divine, and one invokes the light and peace. But there is another side. It's like a dark mantra, what is called as a black mass, where we invoke unwittingly all the very opposite things. Say, when someone says that you are a useless person, now the person has said and gone away, or someone has shouted at us or demeaned us, criticized. Now the person has said and gone away to other things. But what is happening inside our brain? There is a mirroring going on, and we are repeating it ad infinitum. We have picked up, as I said, like a negative mantra. It has a power. Words have power. It's not just that the exalted words have power. Even the most seemingly insignificant words. Let me give an example. When we meet and greet people, we say good morning and have a beautiful day. Have you noticed when someone meets you in the morning and suddenly says, "Are you all right? You don't look fine"? May have said out of goodwill, ignorant goodwill. But see what happens whole day. You're not satisfied and comfortable till you have met someone. So the most seemingly insignificant events. Now we are primed to that from childhood. As you can see that there are even some attitudes, approaches. All this we pick up from environment. Unfortunately, we pick up a lot of atavistic behavior from our parents. You see, parents put in a lot of ambition. They put the child onto a line which is not meant to be. So many such things from the environment have an impact. For paucity of time, we'll not linger more. Then there are, apart from this aspect of the physical constitution, there is another dimension of the physical, which we all have noticed probably. If we are hungry or if we have high fever, now how easy or how difficult it is to really maintain a beautiful inner state. I'm not talking of expert yogis who have practiced, who can separate the mind from their body, and it's perfectly fine. But ordinarily, we slowly become more and more fatigued. We become irritable. Children, for example, a lot of irritability comes just because they are hungry. And grown-ups are also hungry. They are not hungry necessarily always for food. They're hungry for other things. It's a very unfortunate thing. But, this hunger, this leads to a kind of irritability. So, at a physical level, most physical level, fatigue, we don't realize. Sometimes we go on overdrive and we are fatiguing, not allowing enough time, enough sleep, enough rest to rejuvenate our nerves. Now, nervous system is very, very sensitive. It is the watershed area between the physical and the other worlds. And if the nervous system gets fatigued, now fatigue is not just physical activity. Listen to a kind of music and you will feel that the nerves are getting jagged, they are getting hit hard. Because the nerves are the first conduits through which any information is entering us. Anything. If the nervous system is not there, if we are in a state of coma, no information is entering us. At least not directly through the body. There are other ways, but that's a different story. So if the nervous system is frayed, either because of, physical fatigue or even psychological fatigue, so there is a tendency for depression to get into the system, because now what happens to a fatigued person? You must have seen the police people during the initial COVID crisis. They were very alert, hyper alert. So if you just ventured here, there, they immediately catch you, find you. Over a period of time, it was just a question of time that people will get fatigued. So they were getting fatigued. So all that began to slow down. That's why in the battle area, where there is actually a confrontational battle, you don't keep people for very long. You have to change it. So what happens? Something similar with human beings. When the nerves are fatigued, their barriers are shut down and anything can enter. They are not in a state to really register, stop this suggestion, that suggestion. When people are sometimes, when very fatigued and they lie down, if they have not gone off to sleep, it's not a good thing to sleep in a state of fatigue, because you have opened yourself to all kinds of forces. There must be a little bit of rejuvenation in whatever way before we sleep. Because during that time, if you slip into sleep, the nervous system will be open and accessible to all kinds of things from the subconscious terrains and many others. So it's very important that there is a physical component, the diet we eat, the sleep, exercise, work, exercise, balance, and fatigue. That's a very important aspect. But physical is one part of it. It's important at our level. But there are other dimensions, as I said. And the next dimension is psychological. Even when there is fatigue, even when the body is, one is born with, let's say, a weak constitution, certain attitudes can overrun, because there is the possibility of the mind actually not being a slave of matter, but being able to master matter. Now, as human beings develop up the scale, the mind does tend to override all our material state, physical condition. And I often quote this famous story which the mother recounted about Queen Elizabeth I, that she was on deathbed and her people, the subjects, they had come crying for bread. And the ministers would not want her to meet them, because, they had their own game plan. So she says, no. She heard their cries, because they had get out the palace. She said, no, I want to meet them. And then they advised, but Queen, you may die. And she says, but death can wait. Now, this ability of the mind to go override our material conditions. This is one of the things that yoga teaches us. This is one of the things which can be practiced in life. There are some people who are like that. This is one of the things that we are trained for during times of stress and training. You see, there is a term called as eustress. EU, not European Union, but good stress. So very often people want to be always in comfort zone. So they don't take a certain degree of stress. Now, when you don't take a certain degree of stress, your ability to let your mind capacities bloom tends to become diminished and diminished. Like, too much technological advancement can lead to biological amputation. So something similar happens. So eustress. Now, all training is essentially a eustress. When soldiers are trained. Now, they are trained so that they can, in real battle, they are, able to take all that rigors simply because they have been trained like that. They can let their body be overridden by the overpowering powers of the mind. Just recent incidents. Can you imagine sub-zero temperatures? People are, we have 10 degrees and people are looking for where is the AC remote and let me be in my comfort zone. So it's good in life to learn to practice endurance. People who lack endurance, people who lack patience are very, very prone to stress and depression. Patience is such a quality. Now, that is something which in a very fast track life we tend to miss, because we want to reach, everything is fast. From fast food to reach the office fast success, quick success. In the process, we don't learn patience unless we get married or have children. No, we can't deal with life without patience. So husbands and wife come to teach the other one patience. When they don't learn, then you have a child. Child will surely teach you patience. Infinite patience. Okay, because with friends we can be cross and just go away when we are not happy. But what do you do with children? Now, I am not suggesting marriage as a solution to stress. It may be a cause. I'm just saying that there are infinite opportunities in life to learn patience and endurance. I'm reminded of a story of one famous revolutionary. You must have heard the name of Sukhdev, Bhagat Singh, Rajguru. We grew up with those names. So Sukhdev was one of them, 3 persons who was hanged. So I read a very interesting account of his. As a young child, I had read it and it perplexed me. So this Sukhdev was going in a train, and some English soldiers, British soldiers, suddenly, for whatever reason, there was no reason really, they beat him up. And he kept taking the beating. Now, when I read that story, I said, what is this? He should have just, he is a revolutionary. What kind of revolutionary is he? What is he doing? And then I had to just wait for a few pages when he was asked that, why did you accept it? He said, I know that one day when they will catch me, they are going to do much worse. So I'm going to fight this battle. I must practice endurance. This word stuck to my mind. And later on is a similar story. There was a ship actually with this name Endurance. I don't know whether we have heard about this story or not. This is one venture which failed and succeeded. So this was a ship which was sailing all the way to Antarctica. Nobody had really reached there. Now you have all the facilities. And they took an expedition under this famous commander called Shackleton. Now it so happened, and the ship was named Endurance, maybe because of this commander's grandmother or whatever. So, but anyways, as the ship went close by, it hit a rock and it hit a huge iceberg, and the ship literally cracked. So they had to jump off, and all the people who were going, and the dogs and everything, they brought on a piece of ice glacier, which also over a period of time, it cannot take so many people. So all these issues were going on. They have limited supply of food, canned food and everything. And one story which was very amazing, because he said, you have to throw away the baggage. Now this is very psychologically interesting, that endurance doesn't mean all kinds of things on our head. There are things we can throw away. We just keep them unnecessarily. Somebody has told me something and whole day I am brooding. I don't need to. When someone asked me a few days back that, so-and-so told me and I'm not feeling good since then. So I said, did you do a mistake or did he do a mistake? No, I didn't do any mistake. So I said, why you are brooding and suffering? That person should suffer if at all. Why are you suffering? We don't need to suffer if we have not done that. But we should look inside and see whether we were wrong. If we were wrong, yes, we should correct it. Then also we should not suffer. But somebody else has done, you believe that, you were wrongly insulted. It's okay now that it's that person who should have a sleepless night. You should. So this man, wanted things to be thrown away. And one of the things those days they held very precious was the Bible. Shackleton himself was a great believer in God. So now he wants to set an example. So he's throwing away everything and then he takes out the Bible. Now people, don't throw away the Bible. He tore away a page and threw away the Bible and kept that page with him. So people wondered, he said, see, this is the one which is most important for me at this point of time. Now Bible is inside me. I don't want to carry. Now this is so symbolic. It's like we carry the weight of so many things. Our religion, for instance, isn't it? Whereas the core of religion is spirituality. Burn that flame inside. All the rest is, this custom, that custom, what the mother-in-law said and what the daughter-in-law did. God is core of religion. It's an upward ascension to the divine. It's a flame. It's love. It's light. Truth. Keep it. It's not there in a book. Book is important and wonderful. But to keep that core. So, that way we can shed. Like, for instance, in a relationship, when somebody is gone, this life event, and people carry a huge burden on their head. Well, keep the most beautiful aspect of the relationship. That's how we should be. So he disposes everything. Anyways, to cut a long story short, almost after a year and a half or 2 years, they could finally get back because they had no way of going back. No communication, nothing. And they are just waiting for somebody to hear something, and all kinds of adventures, how they manage to eat, all this goes on. And eventually, of course, they, manage to. Now, the beauty of that misadventure was it failed because they could never reach Antarctica. But it succeeded, not a single life was lost. Now you can imagine. So people say that, if you ever take a journey, there should be a commander like Shackleton. And what was beauty was that endurance and the presence of mind. He never let go of, he never accepted failure. I think one of the big problems of our life is, even before we have started, see this attitude, oh, I can't do it. Now, one wicket down. Man is meant to dare the impossible. If you can't do an impossible, but you have tried it, you have already succeeded. But if you have not taken the challenge of life, there is a beautiful line in Savitri: man can accept, he can refuse his fate. Even though the unseen maintains the decree. Maybe he refuses the fate and yet you have to meet the same thing. Thy refusal is written in thy credit page. He refused. Still, destiny, whatever way it set the ball rolling, and let's say somebody, fights a battle, and one doesn't fight a battle saying, I want to be a martyr. No. And yet he becomes a martyr. But he has fought the battle. So he writes this refusal in his credit page. For doom is not a close, a mystic seal, arisen from the tragic clash of life. The spirit rises mightier with each defeat. Its godlike wings grow wide with every fall. So each time we try and fail, we have actually gone one step closer to success than not trying. You see, the famous Wright brothers and Leonardo da Vinci's conception. Now, these are attitudes which must be developed. Now, there are plenty of them. Endurance is one. To take the challenge of life needs courage. And somebody, at one place, Sri Aurobindo speaks of these two things which are indispensable to human beings. He says, faith and courage are the only two virtues. They can save the soul alive. Everything else is collapsed or is collapsing. But if we have faith and if we have courage, they can bring up a whole empire again. There are countless stories of Mahabharata. I mean, one of the greatest lessons, there are plenty of lessons, is, look at the Pandavas. Khandavprasth, which is nothing but a jungle with terrorists and snakes and everything, they change it into Indraprasth. That is snatched away. But they don't give up. Look at the story of, again, Savitri, Satyavan. This ability to take the challenge of life comes from faith and courage. So, faith is something we should cultivate, courage. How to cultivate these things? They are very beautiful things. Well, be in the company of those who have it to start with. It's so important to understand the company we keep. We don't realize, for example, people, this marriage, that relative, they don't realize the disastrous influence it can have. We should choose our family, our friends, our relatives, the places we want to go, because that's part of our choice. So there are people whose company can depress you within a few moments, and vice versa. So keep the company of those who give courage and faith if we don't have, or better still, ask from the divine, the universal source. Or read stories, not or, and stroke or. Read stories of courage. I mean, there is a very beautiful poem of Sri Aurobindo, Baji Prabhu. Now, just on a personal note, I had once very severe, gastroenteritis, vomiting and diarrhea and pulse collapsing. I had actually collapsed and gone to the hospital, and the drip had started. So a good friend, another doctor friend came, said, anything you need, Alok bhai, anything we can do for you? I said, yes, please take out Sri Aurobindo's Baji Prabhu and read it. I am telling you, it can breathe life into a near dead person. Within half an hour, I was all up about sitting. It's such a tremendous energy. There is this warrior, Baji Prabhu, who is facing imminent death. 50 Maratha soldiers facing 10,000 strong army of Pathans, Mughals, Rajputs and Afghans. You can't imagine, It's an impossible fight. And he fights till the last breath, and he falls and he wins. He fell, he died, and Sri Aurobindo describes all the goddess came over him till his last breath he fights. But as he falls, Shivaji comes with the infantry and the guns booming, and ultimately the enemy can't succeed. You see, Tawang battle where two men, one lady, local, and one soldier, they kept a whole Chinese army back. People are now, talking about Chinese. People don't know what extraordinary courage comes out during these times. Read these stories. They are readily available. They are all over. Now we have beautiful, internet and everything. So when you read a story of Abhimanyu, see, somebody was asking what is the difference between Kirti and Yash. Yash can come, it's fame. But Kirti comes only for someone like Abhimanyu. When you think about a warrior, he is immortalized. So read these stories of courage, faith, endurance. So they make us realize that really we can dare the impossible. Otherwise, we are surrounded in life with people who keep on telling us, oh, don't try this, oh, don't do this, oh, this will happen, that will happen. Now it's like, yesterday some WhatsApp message, virus is happening, virus, so many people will suffer illness and die. I said, for God's sake, you are inviting him. Anyways, it will come when it comes. But don't invite him, for God's sake, by constant fear. First, you are depressing your immune system, which is what is going to fight the virus, not mask and police. This is absurdity. Your immune system, if you are afraid and depressed, you can't fight. Life and death are an aspect of life. This is something not new. And one must face it. Well, it's a challenge of life. You live or die, but don't die a depressed person. So this is an attitude. Now these attitudes develop. There are many others. Some are more deeply yogic, like for instance, equanimity comes through yoga. Samatva yoga uchyate. So yoga is, teaches us that these things which we value so much, hani, sitoshna, sukh dukheshu, hani labho jaya jao. At the end they are nothing. They are a play. You lose a battle sometimes, you win a battle. Same with the battle of life. You rise from the pyre, you wake from the grave, and you take the battle challenge again. So it's so beautiful, This idea of rebirth I find fascinating. Means endless journey. It means death is not a finish. So if I must fall gracefully with all the courage in my heart, faith, not like, oh my God, I am dying, oh please. This is not our manhood. So equanimity that comes through practice of yoga. Life of Lord Rama teaches us equanimity. Life of the Sikh gurus teaches us equanimity. So many mystics. Sharma being beheaded, and he can still remember God. Amazing what degree, extent to which our psychological attitudes can take us, where the death becomes unreal. Like Bulle Shah, Teri talwar ke niche mein nachiyan karke chaiya, right? So, anyways, again, this generosity. People are wanting, so they keep... when you want, the big problem is you can't let go because you hold everything that you get, including grudge. So people begin to suffer from well-known disease called grudgitis, and grudgitis leads to all kinds of problem. The solution, remedy to grudgitis is generosity. Be generous. What is there? Life is too brief to carry all kinds of things in the heart and carry till the grave. We should carry beautiful things, not these. So things which are... See, imagine even in a house, if you see kachara inside, muck, do you want to keep it? You want to throw it out, no? Not in another neighbor's compound, which is what we have been doing in proper disposable bags. But why do we keep this kachara? Jealousies and hatred. It's worse. Because this is only harmful to the eye, but jealousies and hate are harmful to our inner being, our inner health. If for nobody's sake, for our own sake, we should throw them out. As I said, why keep rotten food and rotten things all around? For our own sake, it's for our own health. We think that by getting angry, we are punishing somebody. No, we are punishing ourselves. Leave it to the cosmic wisdom. What will happen in whatever way. This idea of punishment itself is so foolish, because if really justice came down upon earth, all of us will be punished without a doubt. Who can say that one has never done any wrong? So leave it to grace. So this generosity, nobility, a more sattvic temperament, as it is called in yoga, a balance of life, all this helps us to cleanse ourselves. And then, of course, there are a host of practices people engage in, which I'm sure there will be a number of sessions on imagery and other things where you actually imagine that you are washing away this muck. Doesn't matter any which way. You can devise your own way. So, improvise it. But the important aspect is don't keep these things. Morning we take a bath outwardly, but we don't take a bath inwardly. Swami Vivekananda said beautifully, every day we should give bath to the body and the soul, but if you don't have time for both, give bath to the soul. That's important. You'll be happy. So, cheerfulness, wonderful attitude, and cheerfulness comes with a good sense of humor. People who don't have a sense of humor, they may say, I am doing very serious sadhana, but it's very suspect. I have actually met someone and I had a very interesting reply from another very senior, long time ashram inmate. So he had come visiting, and this man who had come visiting from the ashram had Parkinson's, all trembling. And there is another man, he says, when we do sadhana, don't we become serious? He said, no, you become more and more like a child, full of wonder and delight. He said, no, but if you are doing serious sadhana, he said, then you will have even more delight. So this man who was accomplished in life, healthy, is talking to a man who is having Parkinsonism, and he is speaking of delight. So you see this cheerfulness, which is, Sri Aurobindo speaks of the salt of existence. Sense of humor is gone, then I think something is grossly missing. One of the earliest signs that something is wrong is the sense of humor, the cheerfulness. Over a small little thing, one becomes irritable. Even a little joke one cannot take. So this is one aspect of it. Then, apart from the psychological causes, as I said, which are very many aspects of it, there are occult causes. And occult causes is something like there is a play of forces. We know that behind every material object, there are material forces. So, behind all psychological movements and even behind material movement, there are there are occult forces. Forces which we don't see, but just because we don't see it doesn't mean they don't exist. None of us has seen the virus except the virologist, but we trust that the virus exists everywhere. But none of us has seen God except the mystics, but we say God doesn't exist everywhere. Now that's, a question of our belief. When people say, oh, virus is everywhere, I said, yes, God is also everywhere. Virus will spread like a contagion. Well, my cheerful state can also spread like a contagion. Someone asked me once, in the beginning, very beginning, I said, see, it's not that, but you are spreading fear. I want to spread faith. That's all. It's perfectly fine. Valid. To each his own. So the point that I am trying to say is that fear, for example, it's a fear, anxiety, nervousness, agitation, depression of an abnormal kind where you just feel that life is hopeless. The last thing to go in human life is hope. And the first thing, the thing that should be always kept alive, even if will is not operating, will is a tremendous, we are given all these resources, will is something so tremendous, we should develop it. Every life gives us 100 opportunities to develop the will every day. We lose it. Will is a great power. Faith is a tremendous power. Courage is a tremendous power. But if all these are yet, they have sunk, keep the hope alive. Hope is the last power. If hope goes, then it's like all darkness. So one must work, when you are dealing with people who are in that state. Even it's said that about people who are suicidal. When they say that, will this fan take this weight? Recently also I was hearing about this recent suicide. There are indications which are given. Now these indications means somebody please give me hope. It's a warped way of communicating that I am in great distress and I want hope. So hope is something which must always keep alive. But these forces cover up hope. How they cover up? By showing only a dismal, it's night. See, everywhere there is night. Now a person who is balanced will say, yes, it's night, but dawn is also going to come. It's the way you look at it. Night means tomorrow I have a new dawn. I have a new possibility. I'll wake up fresh. Good start, jump start to the day. But there is another way. Oh, all the good things have gone. It's night, it's dark. So, this perspective we must keep because our psychological state opens to these forces. And of course, in yoga, they are called hostile forces and adverse forces. But their role is tremendous. And what is the power that they cannot really touch, the power that changes them? Now that power, is what is missing in very much in today's times. Age of competition, aggression, ambition, and lust. All the doors to open to these forces, but there is one power which can counter them, and that is called love. Even I'm talking of human love. Divine love can completely change them. But love, even human love. Mother's love for children is such a safeguard. I have often wondered when infants are born, life is so precarious, they don't realize it. From the womb till you are some age, because you have no sense perception, you don't know what is harmful, you don't know what is dangerous. But mother's love safeguards them. So this love, even at a very outer level, people will not take an extreme step if they love someone. But extreme steps literally mean that, all the candle of love has extinguished. This is called deficiency of vitamin L. Serious problem in civilizational disease, I call it. So how to get this vitamin doesn't come with money. People believe that it comes with money. Throw money, you will get love. Absurd. What you will get is a show of love, which is more dangerous. Love has to be genuine. Otherwise, there's nothing like true love, false love. There's either love or there's a show or sham or whatever. So the way to get love is not to want it, but to give it. And love anything. You can love, the plants. They are wonderful creatures. They absorb your love, give bloom in return. You will begin to understand their language. When you come out and greet them, good morning, and you'll feel that they are gently quivering. Give love to animals. Nowadays it's therapy. Keep a pet. Why? Because husbands are outdated. So keep a pet, it's so wonderful. He will not do anything. He will at least thank you for giving food. Husband will point out, namak kam tha. 100 days it's fine, but one day... Vice versa also, to be fair. but keep a pet. Pet will always, they return abundant love. Sometimes I just wonder the amazing ability of pets to love, especially of dogs, some variety of dogs. They just give love like anything. So if you have nobody else, don't feel lonely, adopt a pet, if nothing else. It'll keep you going. And elephants, their ability to love. Some of these horses are known to sacrifice their life for the sake of... that is something we need to learn from animals. Faithfulness and love. You won't find it in human beings, because with human beings, the mind comes. Mind starts calculating, should I love or should I not love? Mera kya fayda hoga? No, that's not love, calculation. So, inculcate love, and the highest love, of course, source of love is the divine himself. That's why those who have bhakti, those who love the divine, are never deficient of this most fundamental vitamin, because you love the divine one drop, he puts in cascades like Mahaganga. Then you realize even that one drop, actually he was pouring the cascade. What happens when the Mahaganga falls and few drops come up because of the impact. So bhakti is like that. Somebody asked once that, why does the divine wants us to have bhakti for him? I said, divine doesn't want, he doesn't care two hoots about your bhakti, but he pours so much love that some people receive it. And in them it goes up like bhakti. Bhakti is human response to divine love, which has been in creation since ages. So have love in the heart. There is no greater force than that. And then finally, of course, at the end, spiritual causes. So the reason why ultimately we go into depression is because we become very self-centered. We are not really doing what we are meant to do. Each of us is meant to be an expression of something divine. There is a divine script within us. But this script gets distorted because a virus enters our system. The virus enters from various sources. Sorry to say, parents, you must do this, you must become this, you must become the fulfillment of my desires and ambitions. So virus has already entered the system. Then he goes to school. There a super bug is waiting for you, which is called performance and marks. Then you go into society. It's totally bugged. You are judged by the dress you wear. You remember George Bernard Shaw going to a party called, invited by someone, big lady. And he said, see, I am not very fond of partying. I have my own party in the realm of ideas. No, you please come. But at the end, she cautioned him, but see, please wear a proper dress, come suited. So he goes in a suit and ice cream, he starts putting it on his coat. He said, sir, what are you doing? That's not how you eat ice cream. I said, I thought this is the way you eat in this party where, the dress is valued more than the person. So, society is super bugged. You are judged by very, very external things. If you are going to be driven by what society thinks of you, you'll be perpetually depressed. So please change the word social distancing to physical distancing, for God's sake. If you start doing social distancing, life is going to collapse already, There is enough distancing based on what dress somebody is wearing, how big a purse one is carrying in the wallet, and what is the card. Visiting card people give first. So I have a habit, I don't carry a visiting card. Never made one. And if somebody sends a visiting card, I quietly turn it upside down and I meet the person. I want to meet a human being, living human being, not a card. So please, if we are choosing to be driven by social habits and norms and whatever it is called, then we won't discover ourselves. Take the courage, leap of courage to find who we are and what we are. I'm not saying become asocial or antisocial, but become super social. In the sense, interact with the world in the true way, not in the egoistic way, where we are just flattering each other or criticizing each other. See what happened to this actor, boycotted, ostracized. Of course, why did he allow himself to be a victim of societal pressure? That's the other part. But it's unfortunate. That's how it is. Some people are pushed, some are pushed out of the race. Doesn't matter. Don't care about what people are saying and society thinks of you. Would you value the opinions of ignorance? The only opinion which is worth is that of truth. But beauty is truth has no opinion. It doesn't judge. It simply sees and shows and helps. So these are some of the things, as I said, it's a vast subject. Most importantly, spiritually, open to vastnesses. The more we shrink, the less delight we experience, which is everywhere. It is said in the Upanishad that this world is a creation of delight. Raso Vaisaha. We don't experience. We experience pleasure, pain and suffering. Why? Try taking the mighty sea water in a small little lutia, carry it home and say, this is sea water. You see, next day it will not be sea water, but highly contaminated water. Sea water is to be enjoyed in the sea. Plunge into the sea. This creation is so wonderful. It has so many things it's full of delight. Look at the stars, the amazing flowers, the fishes, any of them. Just walk into a garden and you will feel that delight. It's there, it's charm. Children, every child, even a snake's child I have seen, and so cute. You almost feel like, holding and saying so cute. Children are like that. Why? Because unsullied, pure nature, in its pristine purity. If you are feeling depressed, go take a walk, look at a flower, look at the fishes. But something happens, unfortunately, with human beings because of the ego. So we shrink and shrink and shrink. And the more we shrink, the more we have to see a shrink. Don't mind. We have to see a psychiatrist. It's not needed. You need to just open yourself to vastnesses. And if we become vast, we'll experience delight from every side. Everything in this world is wonderful. Because I'm looking at it from my very individual, egoistic standpoint, my comforts, my happiness. The moment we want it's gone. It's like holding the sunshine in the palm of your hands, or holding rainwater in your hands. It won't, it will slip away. So, grow into vastness, most importantly, grow into truth, When we live a life, now truth is not just about speak truth and live the truth of your being. It'll bring delight. Doesn't matter. It may not be what people believe it to be. But it's your truth. That needs courage. And when you do it, it brings joy, tremendous joy. So truth, vastness, and delight. These are the three things that, of course, the third is rhythm. And all this brings delight. So a life of truth, a life which is vast, not for narrow gains, narrow aims, small aims, pettinesses, selfishness, meanness. It lands us into depression, perpetual depression, with anger, frustration, irritability. And the third term is rhythm, the right law of everything. Instead of coercing the world to become what I want it to be, this world should express its own truth. Every child born on earth should bring out its own truth. He should not be a copy of me. The world should not be a copy of me. That's a titanic way. The titans want everybody to be just as they are. But the godlike way is let each one discover in their own freedom, their own truth, and life would be wonderful, delightful, harmonious, the beauty it's meant to be, and all will be love and peace and tranquility and freedom and joy. Thank you. So any quick questions, 10 minutes we can take. Otherwise, we can keep tomorrow as question answers. Because already the secret of happiness is already there.
Hello, Alokda.
Yes, good morning.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is the depression interlinked with our forget or forgiveness to the people from our past life, like from our childhood or maybe from the young age?
Yeah. So, is it audible or do I need to unmute or anything? Nothing. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, this is a subject which nowadays is quite coming up, that we carry things from the past life. Do we carry something like depression from our past life with people we have forgiven or not forgiven, and people who have not forgotten, things like that. But if we go to the core of it, now what really we are carrying from past life, we are surely carrying from a spiritual point of view certain things, but it's not so much the people and the outer events, but the essence of it. That's why I was saying that, it's much better even to face death with a beautiful state inside. Now, sometimes it's true, like things like suicide. Now, it can be carried over lives, few lives. Now, why this happens is that states of consciousness which we have not conquered in a certain life. It's not about the people. People are just incidents in a vast play. But how we dealt with them. So, it's not even that we have to once again encounter those people and forgive them. It is that state of consciousness that we must change. So regardless of, there's obviously some children who grow up to be very self-centered children, whatever you may do, because, they have not yet gone, the evolution has not taken them beyond a certain limit. Now they are still in a very, hardened ego stage, and they have to move up the ladder. So from a spiritual point of view, from an extremely egoistic state, which is tamasic to rajasic to sattvic and beyond, this is the journey of man. What happened in the past life in terms of real incident, they are not important, because death has, washed it off from our memory. And it's not really necessary to go back to them. I'm referring now to the past life regression therapy, where people go back to discover what exactly. After all, what we are going to do, let's put it like this, that somebody there was a trauma. Some people say that, somebody died of drowning, or someone had, deeply insulted, and you're very unhappy about it. So you go back, discover who this person was, and you forgive. Now this is a very long way of doing it. Open your heart. It doesn't matter. It's not about one person. It's a state of consciousness. Now, if my state of consciousness is narrow, then even if I forgive one person in the past, I'm going to contract the same disease in our present life, isn't it? Because the state of consciousness is not changed. So all these events and circumstances come to help us grow. The moment we start looking at life in that way, that they have come to help us grow, outgrow our smallness, littleness, into the vastness, then there'll be no issue. So even in our normal life, we will be given enough circumstances and situations without referring back to the past. The wisdom that governs life itself will create them. Nothing we have left undone, nothing which we have left incomplete will remain incomplete. It will happen. We will meet situations, circumstances, people who will once again trigger certain responses and reactions within us to teach us how to grow vast. So, while it is true that we carry tendencies from the past, certainly, most certainly, but we need not go into a past life regression to teach, to correct ourselves. That same wisdom which produce those people and situations will create something similar. It's like, a task which I have not finished. That's what rebirth is about. The unfinished strands of evolution, the unfinished curves of our journey, they come at some point in our life, in a particular life. They all may not come in one life, but they will come, and we will have the opportunity to face them in another way. It may not be the same people, it need not be. But if we face it in the true way, then we will evolve. So the focus again shifts back onto the attitudes in our present life. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So we meet tomorrow, and we'll take question answers tomorrow. Thank you so much.